For that wonderful introduction. Now today we're going to have a very, extremely interesting session. Today is part 5 of our series that we've been going through the whole week called Guarding Your Heart. Guarding Your Heart. Now if you see today's verse, which has been our theme verse for the whole week, Proverbs 4 chapter 23 says, guard your heart with all diligence. And why? Because from it flow springs of life. Now we've been talking about various things that we should guard our heart from during the week. We talked about diabetes, we talked about hypertension, we talked about cancer. But today we need to guard our heart from something even more crucial. We need to guard our heart from falsehood. And today we have a panel of wonderful guests. There are 3 of us here, and all 3 of them have something in common. Stay tuned to find out. Today we are going to talk about how to live victoriously with COVID-19. So, where can I start from? Let me start on my left. My left, please introduce yourself.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So my name is Dan Rusota. I don't know what I'm supposed to say, but I'm 36 years old. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Diana, for joining us today. And on my right?
My name is Pauline Mulongo. I'm 36 years old, and I'm glad to be here to share the goodness of the Lord.
Great.
Good evening. My name is Justus Nyangaya. I have been here a few times worshiping with you, and currently I am at Karen Community Church. That's where my membership is.
Great, fantastic. And we mentioned that all of us here have one thing in common. We may be of different ages, different genders, and come from different tribes and different localities in Nairobi, but we all have one thing in common which we'd love to share with you today. Now, how should I start this? I'm a medical doctor, but all three of my, what do I call you? Friends here on stage, yes, all 3 of my friends here have been my patients in one way or the other. And all of us have one thing in common, as I said, COVID-19. COVID-19. Remember I told you today we need to live victoriously with COVID-19. And I'm very glad to be able to share the different experiences that we've had here with COVID-19. I can start again with Diana. What is your experience with COVID?
Okay, so maybe I could start by talking about how I found out that I had COVID-19.
Sure.
Yeah. So how I came to find out about COVID-19 is that I was doing, I could call it a routine test. I was going to have a surgery, and one of the preconditions was that I had to be COVID-19 negative, so I had to get a test. And so that's how I went, and I was just doing it for the sake of the surgery. I never expected that I was going to be positive. And yeah, so that's how I found out that I had COVID-19, and maybe I'll share more as we continue.
Okay. What about Pauline?
Okay, in my case, I used Diana as the reference since I was Diana's close contact.
Okay.
We had been in contact like 5 or 6 days before.
Are you friends? Are you workmates? Are you
we are friends.
Acquaintances?
We are friends, we are workmates, we are neighbors. Like we are family, I can say.
Your sisters.
We
She's
are like
forgot to say that you're
family,
sisters. Wow.
Family in the Lord, though
Okay.
not by blood, but. So I was Diana's contact.
Yes.
Since we had been with her like 5 or 6 years, six days before she did her test. And prior to that, we were feeling similar symptoms, like we are tired, you feel like something like flu, and we are asking ourselves, how comes we are having these symptoms? But it never occurred to me that it can be COVID. So when she was going for her routine test, she told me she's going for a routine test because it's a requirement that she has to do that before she goes for her surgery. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Then she goes for her test on a Friday, and then on a Saturday, she tells me, in fact, we were on a call just having a talk, and then she tells me, no, the doctor is calling from Aga Khan, wait first. Then I was like, wow, if the doctor is calling, and she did her test yesterday, okay, she's like, okay, fine. Then
Your heart was thumping in your chest.
Yeah, after that, then when the doctor called her, and then she called back and she told me, Pauline, I've been told I have COVID. Then I was like, oh my God, I think that's the reason I've been sick. Maybe I also have this thing. And then, since our organization had scheduled that we need to have a test at Nairobi Hospital, so my test was to be done on Saturday. So when I was going to that test, I was like, hey, this one, if Dan is positive, I'm positive, because we have been having similar symptoms. She even shared her medicine with me, the Panadol painkiller, the tough one, because I was telling her I have some pain, but I'm not getting better. I've tried this normal Panadol. She's like, I have Panadol, the strong one, try it, it's good for muscle pain. So we are sharing, we don't know what is eating us. So when she told me she's positive, I was like, for sure this thing I have.
Diana is such a good friend. I mean, you ate together, you hung out together, you got sick together, she gave you, the disease, and on top of that, she gave you the medicine.
We didn't know
What
it
a
was
wonderful
that
friend,
We didn't know it was that disease. We were helping each other. We usually help each other in most cases. So
yes.
now we are just being good friends for each other, because if I have this body ache and I've tried this flu gone,
and the flu is not gone.
It's
the
not
flu stays.
It stays, and then I have this body ache. I'm like, what is going on? Then I ask, are you having some funny symptoms? He's like, I think it's the dust we ate when we went to the park. So, we were in the road for too long, so it has to be that dust. But I have this Panadol I'll give you. So now, when I went for my test on Saturday, I expected to get the results on Sunday, but on Sunday, there's no email, there's no call, because I was expecting two things: an email to show I'm negative, or a call. Then on Monday, I receive a call. Then they tell me, did you do a test? Yes. Why? Because I was a contact. The results are here and you have the virus. So,
oh my.
that was it.
How many of us have such friends that you can stick together through thick and thin?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's a very interesting story.
Yeah.
Then after that, what did you do? Did you go to hospital?
Okay, so maybe I can go.
Yeah.
How I received my results was that my doctor called me. He told me, because he was waiting for the results. I wasn't for me, I was sure in the next 2 days I'll do the surgery, but he was waiting for the results. So when he called me and told me that I'm positive, he told me what to do. He didn't tell me to go to the hospital, because he asked me, do you have difficulty breathing? I'm like, no. Then, so I remember when he called me, he told me I have COVID. I coughed. Then I told him, he told me, yeah, that's why you have that cough and sneezing. I was like, yeah, I have the cough, but I'm not sneezing. You see, I was already denying that I have COVID. So he told me what to do. He told me to immediately isolate from my family. And he told me to call my place of work and tell them that I have COVID, and that just in case I had gone to the office and interacted with my workmates. And so immediately after that, the first worry that I had in my mind was, what about my siblings? Because I live with my siblings. One is 30 years, 19 years, 16 years, and my niece, who is 1 year. So I started worrying about them. I was like, we are so close, we interact so intimately because of the baby, and we are very close. I was so sure that they have it. So I now started calling the county numbers 719. I called and I was asking them how to get my siblings to get tested, and all that. So I talked with a few people. I was advised what to do. I would ask them, what is a cure for this? I was just told, just boost your immunity and relax and everything. And so after that, I called my office, because it is a protocol to inform them. And that's when my HR office told me that they were organizing isolation facilities for us, for people who test positive, and they told me to get ready to leave the house. So on the same Saturday by 5, I had left the house and went to the isolation facility. And there, yes?
And in the isolation facility, were you alone or?
In my room. Yeah, I was in my own room. Yes.
Did Pauline come with you?
No.
Okay.
She came, when did you come? She came on Monday.
Oh, so you isolated together?
Yes.
Wow.
We went to the same, we are workmates, so it was the same.
So your workmates, your friends, you hang out, you both get COVID, you treat her, she takes a Panadol, and then after that you you're isolated together.
Yes.
And now you're here together.
And now we are here together.
Wow,
and maybe,
that must be a really strong bond.
yes,
you
maybe
have.
we'll do other things together in future. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Let me shift gears. Justice, tell us your story.
On a Sunday,
Yes.
we took a long walk with my wife, about 10 kilometers.
Wow.
And we came back. In the evening, she was sounding a little bit under the weather. And in the evening, she thought that could this be a slight cold as a consequence of dust that we may have
You see?
walked
Dust.
through. Yes.
Yeah. Kenyans, beware of dust.
And the following day, she didn't do much. She felt very fatigued and tired. That was on a Monday. On a Tuesday, she was sounding well, on the way to recovery. But she felt that I've never felt like this before. I'm too tired, too fatigued. What is this? On Wednesday, she was better. And on Thursday, she was really good. But on Wednesday night, she was actually sprinkling something on her pillow. Because she still felt that her nose was clogged. And this was eucalyptus. But she didn't think that eucalyptus was sprinkling. She looked at the bottle, she had opened it, but she couldn't feel the smell.
Oh, she couldn't smell at all.
She sprinkled. She could see that the sprinkling is there, but she couldn't smell anything at all.
Pauline, did you have that as well?
Yeah,
You couldn't smell anything? What about taste?
no taste. I could just tell something is sweet, but its distinct taste was not there completely. I think it took more than 10 days. Like the second week is when, the end of the second week is when now I started having feeling the taste of something, honey.
So you're eating githeri, but the githeri tastes like ugali.
You don't know how it tastes. You just know this is githeri you are eating, and you have to eat. But its taste, the taste of githeri, it's not there.
Very interesting. So the
Yes.
eucalyptus?
Yeah, so she couldn't smell anything. So in the morning,
Yes.
our doctor wakes up very early in the morning, so we can reach him at any time.
Yes.
So she woke up and said, Daktari, this is how I am feeling. Am I staring COVID-19 on the face?
That was a very brave self-diagnosis she made.
And the doctor said, oh, Apondi, my sister, I've just prayed for you. My wife is called Apondi.
Yeah.
I think you may need to go to Aga Khan, leave for Nairobi now, and go to Aga Khan and do a test. I will be monitoring. Our doctor is a very sensitive person. He follows up, he looks, he gets to know what you are about, how you are feeling. So then I rushed my wife. We didn't rush though, but anyway, we went to Aga Khan. We didn't even talk about it. I mean, if it is COVID-19, it's COVID-19. What can we do about it?
Yep.
So we went, we stayed there, and she took the test. The following day, a doctor rang from Aga Khan doctor. My doctor is also based in Aga Khan. And said, Apondi, I have your test now, and I would like to speak to you about it.
Uh-oh.
And she says, am I positive? And the doctor said, yes. And she said, please don't talk to me right now. This time, I'd like to talk with you, or you talk with me when I'm next to my husband. So wait. And she walks into the bedroom. I was in the bedroom doing something. And she told me, a doctor has just called from Aga Khan. And I want you to listen to what she's saying. So the doctor said that, okay, you are positive. She was such a beautiful spirit, the doctor, and explained what it was all about. And said that we want you now to be quarantined. You need to, what kind of house are you living in? And she said, okay, and then in that case, you need to be in your room. And don't mix with other people. And she said, no, but my husband has been here. If I have COVID-19, he must actually have COVID-19.
Oh.
So I am not going to kick him out from this bedroom.
Yes.
So then,
That's very interesting.
so then our doctor rang
Yeah.
and said, okay guys, Apondi, I think the doctor from Aga Khan has called you, but I need to speak with you as well.
Yes.
What I want you to do now, Justus, take everybody in the house to go and do a test, because Apondi is positive. And then we will be watching. I will advise you after the test. But in the meantime, these are the things that you need to do. And he talked about them. So I took everybody. We were 6 in the house. And one of my nieces had been coming often to see my daughter. And so we took her as well. Her and her parents live somewhere else, or close by, or we are neighbors. So we also took her. So there were 6 people. So 7 in the house. And this was on a Friday. So of course on a Saturday, they didn't call. On a Sunday, they didn't call. But on Monday, the test came back that we were all positive, except one person.
Oh.
And this one person was also feeling the same way like the rest of the people.
Yes.
But I wasn't feeling like that.
Yes.
I didn't have any loss of smell or taste. I didn't feel fatigued. I didn't feel anything at all. My nose has never been appreciated like it was during that time. Because every time that that somebody was cooking,
Yes.
and especially ugali, where I come from, ugali has to be cooked well.
Yes.
And the smell
Yes.
tells you that it's just about ready, or it is
smell
very
is part of the culinary experience.
And guess who was telling these guys that ugali was ready?
Who?
I had the opportunity and the privilege.
Your nose was the most important.
My nose was valuable asset in the house.
It was the MVP.
If there's something that is going bad in the fridge or outside,
Yes,
I tell them that, guys, we have a problem.
yes,
Something is going bad, it's smelling, it's rotting.
yes. Your nose
And-
was the official nose of the household.
My nose was now considered the official helper.
Yes.
Even if I didn't do anything much, my nose did everything.
And you actually brought out two very important points that I think we all need to realize. One, you didn't feel anything in terms of symptoms.
But my
and you were
results
positive.
was positive.
And the other person in your house was having symptoms, but her results were negative at that time.
Yes.
And that is something that we all need to realize, and that's part of the myths that we need to debunk today about COVID. COVID is very unpredictable. But just because you're feeling something and your results could be negative, okay, there's a whole concept of false negatives that, is coming up and about. And on the second part, if you are at a high risk of getting COVID, for example, you have had a contact with COVID and you yourself are not feeling anything, you still need to be tested as well. It is very important. Some of the myths, I think, and shifting gears again, I want us to play a small little game, okay? Now, in your hand, you have a paper written T, okay? Now, T stands for true. And in the other hand, you have another one written F. So, F stands for false. So, we're going to play this small little game. The top big myths that many Kenyans have about COVID-19. Are we ready?
Yes.
We're ready?
Yes.
Don't worry, there's no penalization. You won't be knocked out of this this podium if you get it wrong, okay? So, number one, fact or fiction. And you at home, you can turn with me to the screen right now and you can see fact or fiction. Number one, okay? Number one, coronavirus disease or COVID-19 is the most dangerous virus that exists. True or false? COVID-19 is the most dangerous virus that exists. True or false? Okay? So how many truths do we have? How many falses do we have? You've changed yours just now.
No. It's been like this.
It's been like that? Okay, so what is the answer? The answer is actually false. Do you know that the common flu or the influenza virus kills about 60 times more people annually than COVID?
Wow.
Yep. So, if we talk about really, even the statistics really, majority of COVID infections, and you can see from this graph right here, over 80% of the infections really are mild. Around 13% are severe that require you to be in the hospital. And about 4.7%, around 4% of COVID infections are critical, requiring ICU care. Majority of people recover. Majority. And worldwide, really, we've seen this and the statistics are very clear. Majority recover. So, is it really, really the most dangerous virus that we all need to be so scared of and so terrified about? And we even, I'm sure many of the people in the congregation right now are afraid to come onto this pulpit thinking, this is a highly infectious zone that we need to take care of, and be aware of.
Yeah.
Really, it is not the most dangerous virus that exists. There's a nice joke that was going around saying, don't be so afraid of the coronavirus. Why? It won't last long because it was made in China. Okay? So, question number two. If I don't have fever, okay, then that means that I am free from COVID-19. True or false?
False.
False.
Okay, everyone goes for false. Okay. And you're actually all right. Indeed, the answer is false. Why? There are many, many, many different symptoms of COVID. Okay, someone even says that some symptoms of COVID, such as sweating, having weakness, having diarrhea, having some stomach pains, which we all know happen. Basically the same feelings that you get when you see your spouse snooping on your phone. Those symptoms that you have are the same symptoms you get when you have COVID. Really, there are so many. People have headaches, people have muscle aches, lack of smell, lack of taste are some of the things that someone have. Others present with difficulty breathing. Actually, very few people present with fever.
Yeah, because I didn't have fever.
You didn't have, did you have fever?
Yes.
You had fever for 1 week.
Yeah, for 1 week.
For 1 week you had fever?
Yes.
Okay, what about you?
I think I had fever for 1 day.
Yes.
And that was, I think, the onset, or just knowing there's something wrong with me.
There's something wrong with you?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, interesting. So, some of the conversations we need to start having is, does checking everyone's temperature when you enter into a building a foolproof plan against screening for COVID?
Actually, let me just say something about that.
Yeah.
Last week, I was talking with my auntie,
Yes.
who is a retired teacher.
Yes.
And she was traveling from Migori to go to Kisumu to see one of my aunties, her sister,
Yes.
was unwell. And she told me that she is very well. In fact, 3 times she was told that she was well, she didn't have coronavirus, because 3 times the temperature was taken. The
Yes.
gun.
The temperature gun, yes.
Yes. So one was taken in Migori, another was taken somewhere else en route to Kisumu, and a third one was taken when she was entering Kisumu. She was very happy that she didn't have coronavirus, because all these tests, she calls them tests.
Yes.
In fact,
The foolproof
proved that
tests against
she
corona,
did not have
yes.
coronavirus.
Daktari nipime corona. Yeah. False. Okay, interesting. And the last question now, as you can see on your screens, fact or fiction? I will die if I am diagnosed with a coronavirus disease. True or false? The answer actually, in most cases, worldwide is false. If you look at the statistics on the screen, TB kills more people than coronavirus. Hepatitis, pneumonia, HIV, AIDS, you can see measles, Shigella, whatnot, whooping cough, all these other diseases. By the time you reach COVID, there's so many other diseases that could have killed you. Those who die really have other conditions that are very, predisposing to them to being, having more severe illness, things like diabetes, high blood pressure, things like chronic respiratory diseases. If you look even at the statistics worldwide, Kenya, we have about 506, I checked the statistics today, globally. 506 people have died in Kenya from COVID, and this translates to a mortality really of about 1.6%. Whereas really other countries are falling within the same range, with the exception of Italy, which has a mortality rate, a case fatality rate of about 13.9%. But even globally, out of the 22 million people who have been diagnosed with COVID, only about 3.5% of them have died. So it was really not as deadly as many people make it out to be. Okay? And this is some of the things that, as we're winding up, these are some of the things that we really need to discuss, is why do we stigmatize those who have COVID, and we treat them like, they're lepers, oh my goodness, I need to stay away from them, they're dying, and they're very sick, and I need to protect myself at all costs. What are some of your experiences with stigma around, your diagnosis with COVID? Have you experienced any so far?
Well, no, I
No?
haven't. When I was in isolation, the
Yes.
staff were very friendly.
Okay.
And when I came home, I know within the apartment, people knew there's a case because I told the landlady.
Yes.
So they were very happy to see me back.
Did they come and give you a
even
big
wanted,
hug?
They
and
wanted
like,
to hug
"Oh."
me. I'm like,
So the stigma was on your end
The
now.
same thing in the office.
Yes,
Yeah, I have all the support. There's no stigma.
that's amazing. What about you, Pauline?
In my case, I haven't faced stigma.
Yes.
I think the reason is I haven't interacted that much with people. Before going to isolation, the people I had interacted with were my family member, so there was no stigma on that. So, and when I went to isolation and came back, I came back to the house, so I haven't faced the stigma yet. If
Okay.
it's there, I'm prepared. But
Yes.
so far, I haven't experienced it.
Justice.
I think maybe one or two, but I think there's not very much stigma because not very many people believe that there is coronavirus.
Oh,
A lot of people think that it is a government ploy to get aid from development partners.
you know, that's something very interesting because I've actually had that.
Yeah.
You know, I've had patients
Yeah.
who come to me. For example, the other day,
Yeah.
I had a man who came to me. I diagnosed him with COVID. I quickly put him in the ward. The man died, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so I was busy calling his wife and telling his wife, you know, you need to get checked.
Yeah.
And she also got positive as well. She got positive results. I had them with me. And I told her, please, ma'am, you need to be in hospital. You're sick.
Yeah.
Your husband is sick. And you know what she told me? Daktari, there's no way I could have that disease. There's no way my husband could have that disease. We've been at home together this whole time.
Yeah,
And you know, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
please, you know, your husband has died
yeah,
and he had COVID.
yeah,
And I'm trying to now save and rescue the ones who are remaining.
absolutely.
And the thing is, she told me, Daktari, me, I don't even know anyone who has COVID.
Absolutely.
So just because I don't know anyone who has COVID, does that mean it doesn't exist, as you said?
Yeah, I mean, people say that I don't know anyone
Yeah.
or anybody who has a cousin or who knows anybody that has COVID-19. Until now, we were telling people that, listen, we have COVID-19. We
Yes.
have had it. By God's grace, God walked through this with us. But it is there. Until one of my own relatives, very close, who had been saying that there is no COVID-19, and my wife had been posting a lot of information and experiences on social media platforms, and this got to her. That is when she rang somebody else, not even my wife, and said, Kumbe, there is COVID-19. Apundi and family has that. Justus also had COVID-19. It means there is COVID-19.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting that you should bring out the element of God's grace. Because really, I remember there was a time that I was even talking to Pauline. You know, there's a time I went to, you know, check on her, you know, in isolation as part of my daily ward rounds. And Pauline, you were feeling very down.
Yeah, I remember.
And that's a big thing also in COVID that I realized amongst all my patients is the mental aspect is really important. You know, what kind of things were going through your head, you know, at that point in time? Were you scared? Were you angry?
No, I was scared and disappointed, especially the first week. The truth is, it's not a deadly virus, but it's scary.
It's
so,
scary.
Yes, it is.
So you are not sure now which statistic you'll belong. You're like, am I going to die or am I going to be in the recoveries?
Yeah.
Then you're like, you know, actually I can die. Sometimes even you are afraid to go to sleep because you're like, what if I go to sleep and then I have difficulty in breathing? So you just use, like the first 3 days in isolation, it was difficult to go to sleep.
It was, yeah.
So now the first week, so the funny thing with my story is that when I was going to do the test, the severe symptom had already set in, but it hadn't crossed in my mind it can be COVID because I had that fever and chill on Wednesday, and then then the fatigue set in, so I wake up on Thursday. The fever is so high and then the heart is beating so fast. I'm like, now here, there are two things. If I cover myself, it's like there's a heating process going on. If I uncover myself, I'm freezing. I'm like, now I have to choose one thing. I have to choose one thing that I'll die with. So, and the heart is also beating so fast. So the next day I wake up, I'm like, oh, actually I'm alive. But I still don't know if it's COVID. So I try to get out of my bed, then I feel like I'm going to fall down. So I just sit in my bed, and then I just told my sister and my son now to be bringing food. Then the interesting thing that happened is, I think God works in a mysterious way. I started isolating without knowing that I had COVID.
Yes.
Because there was a case at a workplace, and I had gone to work on a Monday. I said, okay, it's the right thing to do. I went to that floor. I didn't meet the person, but it's the right thing to do. But I'm also feeling not well. So I'm isolating, not knowing I'm doing something that relates to what I'm going through. So by Thursday, I have this body ache, backache, severe backache, and then now I start having blocked nose. So when I'm going to isolation, I'm just thinking that I'm going to isolation to recover, because I'm already done with the severe symptom. Then I get there day 8, then day 9, 10, I'm okay, and I think I'm recovered. Then after that, the symptoms come back. So this brings in frustration, and
it brings in a lot of frustration.
Yeah, I was really frustrated, and like, if my symptoms are wild, then why can't I just get over with it? Why do they keep going and coming? And I just felt frustrated and disappointed. I was like, I think I just need a counselor. This one I can't take in too much. Nobody told me this. So I was really frustrated.
You know, just as you were mentioning something very interesting to me just before we came up here.
Yes.
The whole role of God and COVID and could he be saying something to us, really?
Yeah, let me just read something
as we wind up. Yeah.
That my wife and I had noticed that a lot of people were praying that God should take COVID away because it is Satan who brought it. And sometimes I think as Christians we can be a bit naive, some of us, to think that God is the soft one that does not bring something like this. But we need to be silent and know that we have a God that cares but also punishes. And let me just read this very quickly. I too, together with our family, walked the COVID journey, and Yahweh passed us through the fire. For me, the Almighty chose not to take the fire away, but to walk with us through it. That is the gentle, loving, healing God that we serve. Still, far too many Christians think that Yahweh is a soft toy and that he does not cause calamity, terror, horror, commission, mass murder, and genocide. Remember, the plagues in Egypt, Sodom and Gomorrah, Noah's flood, the bloodiness of the killings he caused and directed, including the killings of children, infants, animals, and trees. This God of love is a God of wrath. He is the lamb and also the lion. Do not for a moment imagine that he did not cause COVID-19. I don't believe Satan has the potence to do anything half this size. Praise omnipotent, almighty God. He never changes. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. A key focus for Christians must be how Yahweh is directing our relationship with him during this pandemic. And the scripture that illustrates God causing terror and also healing is Numbers 21:6. And the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and much people of Israel died. Note that he did not take the serpents away. He just created a survival protocol that people needed to obey.
That's interesting. Very deep. Diana, what's your parting shot?
Well, okay, so my part in short is now how God helped me to go through the journey of 30 days in isolation. And I remember when I got COVID, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe that I could have it. And I remember one of my siblings told me, you know, Diana, I always knew that we will never get COVID because you are so strict. You always tell us to wear our masks. You forbade people from coming to the house, so we were the most careful. And so after the isolation, I was talking to her, and I was telling her, you know, God let this COVID come into our bodies to let us know that He's the only one who was going to heal us. Because there's no medication. There's no medication for COVID. But
true.
God knew that it's not just that protection that you wear, washing your hands, wearing the mask, of which everyone should still follow. But I would encourage people to know that when it comes to your body, God is going to help you. Yes. And when it comes, it may be for another reason that God wants you to know that He's the ultimate healer and answer to things that we do not understand, like COVID. Yeah.
All right. Quickly, any parting shot?
So for me,
Pauline.
from that experience, what I learned is that God is always there. God is always there to take us through difficult storms. Doesn't mean that you'll not go through the storm. You'll go through the storm, but He'll take your hand and take you through it. So it gave me a different experience, and I really felt the goodness of the Lord, because for me to get out alive, it's by God's power and grace. And let's just keep trusting in God and do what's right, and know that God can never leave you or forsake you. Even in deep troubles or storm, He's always there.
Amen. Anything?
Yes, I am privileged
Yes.
that we got COVID-19, and we were in the fire.
It's a privilege. Wow. Okay.
Yes, and God actually was the fourth person
In the
in that fire. And what a privilege is that.
Yeah.
Just like Pauline says, He did not say that you will not go through the storm, not through the fire, not through any such thing, but He will be with you.
Actually, the verse is when you go. So
When.
it's sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for me, the fact that I've walked with God is a great privilege.
Amen.
And I want to thank His name and glorify His name for having done that for just me and
Yes.
my house.
Yes.
Yeah.
My parting shots are: wash your hands, sanitize, wear your mask, and remember to stay safe. Thank you. We'll see you again tomorrow at 5:20.